Hello there and welcome back to my channel. We've got another installation video today. It's a little bit of a follow-up from my previous one. I'll put a link in the description for that. But in our first video we installed the new Keep Alive mod from Frutto Technology. It's a new version that requires no soldering. And I said in that video that they had also sent me their new no solder version of their 28 segment bar graph. And that's what we're going to fit today and install it. Now the beauty of it is that it will be installed alongside the Keep Alive that we've done already here. You can chain the two together and they'll work perfectly fine with each other. I'll do my best to tell you how it's done without the Keep Alive if you don't have that. It's largely the same set of steps, just a couple of slight changes as if you didn't have this small board here. I will try to cover that just to help you, but the intention today is to plug it into the Keep Alive and have everything working. Now, in case you're not familiar with this particular modification, if I flip over the wand, this is what we're going to be replacing. Now, this is just 5 LEDs as it comes stock with Haslab, and we are going to be swapping that out for a 28 segment one. And if you want to have a look what that looks like fitted, we're going to have a quick sneak preview right now. So I shall just move this wand out of the way and I shall bring in my main wand. Just have to zoom out a little bit here just for the moment, and I'll zoom in on it in a moment. There we go. That is what we're going to be achieving today. So you can see way better now. It's even better in real life. The camera and the frame rates kind of make it look a little bit odd, but it's fantastic in real life. And the beauty of it is it has a firing mode as well. So that is what we are hoping to achieve today on our other wand. This new version from Frutto Technology requires no soldering. Much like in my previous video, that was also no soldering, the Keep Alive here. I did tin my wires, but again, purely optional, and I'll probably do the same in this one. Now, just as a heads up, this procedure to install this is a little more involved than we saw when we fitted this Keep Alive board. We are, or at least I am, going to be taking out a portion of this plastic just here, so we can get access freely to the existing LEDs and the wiring. It's all under there. Now, if I remember correctly, the very first version of this one, the silver tip, I think it was, didn't have this section here. It was exposed, but as a consequence, people were finding that this mechanism over time either got caught in the wires or severed the LED altogether, causing the barrel not to work anymore. This newer version and the 84, again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but then they added this to stop that happening, to cover all the wires up so it could move freely. And when we do get in there, as I'll show you when we get there, there's a huge one-piece of plastic under there, which is part of that lens. It's also part of the top vent lights. So if you want that taken out, it's also an opportunity to remove that, as I did on my other wand. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, and I'll show you how you can go about doing that. There's a number of different ways we can do this. Okay, I'm going to pop this out of the way for one moment to show you what we're dealing with today. We have, and it's upside down, our new control board for the LEDs, and this is our 28 segment bar graph that we're going to be fitting, and it comes with a couple of wires. So that's our kit, and this is what we're going to be fitting, and I'll talk you through that step by step. Let's bring our wand back in, and as I mentioned in the previous video, because we didn't do it then, knowing that I was going to be installing this bar graph, at the very end I will be closing this up, doing some cable management, so we can see how best to try and put that back. So that's the preamble out of the way. let's get started with preparing the wand for installation. Now the first thing we're going to do is give ourselves a bit more room to work in, because there's not a lot of real estate when working in the wand. We do have a board already fitted. As mentioned, the keep alive, that's already taking up some of our room. But for this, we need to get rid of the barrel as well. We need that out the way, so we've got free access down here to the bit we're going to take out. So before we take the screws out to get the barrel off, we're going to take a couple of the leads out from in here. First one we're going to take out from the keep alive board is this wire here, which feeds the momentum switch at the bottom for changing the mode. So we're going to take that one out first. If you don't have the keep alive plugged in, then that will be sat here, down here at the bottom, next to the 4-pin. So we're going to take that one out, and underneath this board is the one here, which is for the LEDs in the barrel. We're going to be taking that one out as well. Move those out of the way just a moment, see if they'll stay around here. And we need to take this screw out first of all, that's holding on the spring. Like so. Put that to one side. The spring will now come away from the barrel. Put that to one side, and there's one more screw just here. That now means we can take this out. It's slotted in to the main body here. We'll have to give it a bit of a wiggle. You'll also see there's a plastic stump there that it's sat on, so we need to pull it off that. It's quite a bit of force, but it's not going to break. There we go. Now that means we can just move that out of the way. And the next thing we're going to move out of the way is the speaker grill. That just pulls out like that, just slots into the side. Give it a little wiggle. Just be careful as you do take it out, you don't yank too hard and pull these wires off. And let's pop that to one side as well. As I said, we need to create some space here by getting rid of this. So we need to take this out. You can just about see here, this is part of another piece we're going to take out. Now you'd think that you'd be able to take these screws out and somehow lift that entire panel out. That's not the case. I did try my previous wand. Others have tried too. Hasbro appear to have welded the thing down, making it virtually impossible. Instead, we're going to cut out a piece of this using some snippers, and then we'll have full access to everything underneath there. Do keep this piece. We may reuse it at the end. Now personally, I'm going to come down here, virtually a straight line, and then across that bit there. Now we're going to have to be really, really careful, because underneath there are wires, multiple wires actually, and we do not want to be snipping those as we do it. There's no real neat way of doing this. Just take your time. I'm going to use some side cutters. I'm going to start here, and we're going to cut our way through. That's the first cut done. Now, I'm going to just try and push some of these wires out my way. I do not want to be catching any of them. I may even see about wedging that in actually, just to keep those down and out of the way. I'm going to very gently come in and take a cut across here. I'm very conscious that there's a little black wire coming out the side here. I've got to try and avoid. I'm going to make a start and then gradually move this out of the way. Let's Just give this a little bend back and forth, and it should, not particularly thick plastic, so it should just come away with a bit of manipulation. Okay, that's that piece come away. Just pop that to one side. We might need that again, depending what I do at the end. And let's turn the wand back round. Zooming out here, we've got this piece of plastic at the base. And you can just about make out two black circles, much like in the first video when we had to take the bottom of the wand off. We need to draw these two bits out, which will expose two screws underneath, and we need to take those two screws off. So we can take that off. That will give us access to one of the screws we need to take out underneath. Okay, that's those drilled out. And that's exposed two screws, 1 and 2 there. We're going to take those out now. Like so. That's exposed one of the screws we need to take out. So what we've got here is the LED on the slow blow. This is our rumble motor. We want to take out this screw here and the one just further down, just there. There's two of them. That's holding this black back plating to the bar graph. So we need to take that off. As with most of the screws in Haslab products, much like the Proton Pack, they're generally all the same size, but if you like to keep them all together in a neat pile, then do so. But I think by and large they're all the same size, so don't panic too much if you get anything mixed up. Now that the two screws are out, I'm just going to use these little needle noses to help pull this out. I'm going to grab it just near the top, just support the wand with the rest of your hand. Carefully prise that out. Like so. We can put that to one side for now. And that gives us access to the bar graph, which is just sat there. Now, before we proceed any further to some of the next things we're going to do before even installing the new board, we'll take out the bar graph. It's just resting in there, so we can just lift that up, take that out. So now we just need to get it from underneath there. Now, much like we did when we fitted the Keep Alive, we're going to cut these off here, and these wires are going to feed into the new board for the bar graph. So it's a similar principle as we did there. We're going to be snipping the wires and screwing them into these terminals, but on the new board, therefore eliminating the need to solder. So I'm just going to take a clean cut across there. There we go. We don't need this anymore. We can just put that to one side. Now, decisions need to be made. You could, in theory, if you wanted to, move to the next step of installing the new bar graph. You could put the bar graph down here. Now, it does come with various little sort of brackets and fittings, depending on what approach you next take about fitting it. If you want to avoid the next step, which again is quite involved, you could put it against here, secure it there somehow with one of those fittings. You might have to hot glue it down a bit and then leave it at that. Disadvantage of that, of course, is that we're keeping in this thick piece of frosted glass. Well, it's plastic, so it won't quite achieve the look that personally I would go for with this, but it's entirely up to you. I would recommend what I'm about to do, which is to take out this whole portion here. Now, there's a few screws that hold it down up here and down here. It's all one piece, includes that top vent delete at the top. So we're going to take that out and I'm going to show you how that's done, and then I'll give you a couple more options of what you can do with it once we've got it out. First thing we're going to do is take out that hat, top hat LED. It's just held on by one screw. It's just here. That should pull up. If it doesn't, we might have to get a bit more of a pull. It's only pressure fit in there. There we go. So let's get that one out of the way. And I'm also going to pull out the Bargraph wires, unfill them from the others. See if we can't get that stuck out of the way as well. I'm going to move the speaker out the way as well. Okay, so let's look at the screws we need to take out next. You need to take out this one here that's holding down this little board. It's got a switch on. That switch is for when the barrel shuts. There's one just down here. There, if we look further down, we've got one. Ooh, just about see it. Where are we looking? Right at the bottom now. One here. There is one there, tucked in there to the right, and there's one right at the back, which is an absolute pain to get to. Can't even see it. It's under here, you can't see it. There, just there. That's an absolute pain to get to, for obvious reasons. Not much of an angle to get into. Again, that's just pressure fit in there. Let's just really gently wiggle that out, just so I can get my hands on it. Move him out of the way. Right, let's get these screws out that we looked at earlier. One up here, and there's three down here. Let's get those out and let's pull this plastic piece out. Then we can talk about what we're going to do next. So another thing to be careful of, underneath there's another small circuit board. Just be careful of that when you pull it out. And okay, that piece is out. As you can see, that's the top delete where the vent light is, and that's the sort of print on for the bar graph just there. So let's have a look at this piece and just talk for a moment about options for installing the bar graph and what to do with this. Now I'm going to speak from experience and what I did on my previous one. Now Frutto provide some 3D printed brackets to help you along. Now, I've got the all-in-one piece, and that's what I'm going to be installing. Probably the far simplest option you might have immediately would be to take your new bar graph and place it in the existing holder. It's not snug, it's not fit, doesn't move too much, but you probably have to hot glue that down. Could do that, but as I mentioned a short while ago, you still got this. It creates a bit of a diffuse look. It's not ideal. You're not going to get the best effect. What I want to do is two things really. Pop you out the way. I want to use this, which sits down in the vacant space down here like that, and our bar graph sits nice and snug into that. Now to fit that, you'll notice there's a little screw hole at the top. That screws onto this bit here. But to make that work, we have to remove that top section and remove it at the bottom too. This entire middle bit will be gone. Now for me personally, much like my other wand, I want this space left, completely open like that, so it's a bit more authentic to the screen used ones. So I don't want this delete at all. So I'm going to cut mine right here and just dispose of that bit altogether. You could, if you wanted to, cut about here, and also at the top there, take away the middle bit, and you can actually screw that back in there, and then this to the top bit, and take it from there, if you have no intention of removing this. Some people like the look of that, I don't. If you want to keep that, that's the way to do that. Now, if you want to keep this, fine. If you don't want to get rid of it, like I'm going to, you do need, if possible, to retain this little corner section here. That's where our LED goes in. It's just easier to keep that, screw that back in, and fit our LED back. It may look scrappy from the inside, but externally, you're not going to tell the difference at all. You won't see it. So I'm going to make those modifications now. I'm going to cut across here where the crease is. Don't need anything there. I'm going to cut across there. That's what I'm going to do first. Like so. I'll pop that to one side for a moment. Now we're left with this top piece. So we need to retain this bit, like I say, because it's got the bracket for that little circuit board here, and the LED, the slow blow, and our little bracket that we're going to use for our new bar graph is going to screw into that top bit there. This one's a bit more fiddly, because as I say, we want to try and retain this screw point here. So we're going to have to try and come in at a strange angle and mangle it probably a little bit. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, I'm going to pop that to one side here for a moment. Now I've just had a bit of a flashback to when I did this last time. I recall this part here just by where we cut off. We're going to be reusing that hole. I think it's a bit too high, if I remember rightly, which means that little bracket doesn't sit quite flush. So I think I ended up having to trim just a bit off that top. So I'm going to do that in anticipation. What we're going to do next is actually do the wiring. So we're going to do the wiring up of the bar graph and the board. One reason I'm doing it right now is because I want to make sure that the bar graph and everything is working correctly. And second of all, it's quite difficult to tell without running it, because I can't remember which is the correct direction, which is the correct direction. So I'm going to have it all installed, plugged in, so I can make sure that when I pop it into the fitting, it's going the right direction. So that's what we're going to do next. So the first bit I'm going to do is probably the most it is the most taxing part of the wiring, and that's preparing the bar graph wires. This is what we cut earlier from the old one, and there are, I want to say, 6 wires. So there are, so we're going to spread these open, give us some room to work with. Okay, so I've stripped all those wires. They're all ready to go. Just take a little bit off each of the ends. Just be careful when you do it. The wires are really thin. Very easy just to chop it off instead of stripping them. So just be gentle as you do it. And look at the wires that we've got. And looking at the way they're ordered, with the blue one at the top, the brown at the bottom, we look at our board here, they don't go in that exact order. It's not far off. So ignore the blue at the top and the brown at the bottom. These 4, green, then the 2 yellows, then the red, do go in the order they are, starting at top. So 1, 2, 3, 4 down from the top. Right, that's those first set wired in. So just to remind you, ignoring that first blue and starting at the first gate there on the left hand side, the green, the yellow, then the next slightly darker yellow, then the red, in that order. So that leaves that top blue and that brown. Now we're going to miss the 5th gate, which is the ground. Don't need that for this particular setup. The next one will be the blue in that second to last gate, and then the brown in that very last gate. Let's do that now. And there we go, that's all the wiring done. So we've got that greeny to yellow, the red, that first blue, and then the brown. Just zoomed in on the main board for a moment. If we have a look at our Keep Alive kit, SW4, this cable here, used to be plugged into the main PCB here, now plugged into our Keep Alive kit. We have this provided wire from them, it goes out and into there. And what we're going to do is chain this particular set of wires into our bar graph board. Let's show you how that's. So we can chain them a couple of different ways. Let's just zoom out so you can see a bit more. Here's our bar graph board, our Keep Alive board. So this SW4 cable, you can either take it out of here, plug it into here, use our provided cable, out, and then into where that one is, or we can unplug it from down here in the main board, feed that one into here, and then that one out and into the gap. As long as we've got an out through the two boards and back into there, you can chain it either way. Now in my case, my preference, because this one's just the easiest one to get to because it's right on the top, as opposed to the one down here in the main board, I'm going to take this one out, and this is the one I'm going to put into the segment board. So having a look at our bar graph board, terminals on the left, this far right 4-pin socket is where we're going to plug it in, that original SW4 cable that I've just taken out to Keep Alive. So we can plug that in now. Like so. Now we'll take the 4-pin connector that's provided with the kit, plug it into the one adjacent to it, like so, and we're going to plug that into where we just took it out on the Keep Alive board, like so. That's the link made between the bar graph board and the Keep Alive board. Now let's get the next couple of connections made, and then we can test out the bar graph. So first, assuming I can still reach the cable for the momentum switch, we're going to plug that back into the Keep Alive board where it was originally from, so we'll do that next. So the bar graph one goes at the far end, the 3-pin one right at the edge of the board next to our original SW4, so that goes in there. Again, the kit comes with another 3-pin for you, this one here. We'll put that on the one next to it. Okay, and then the end of that will go in the main board where we originally had the barrel LED cable. Let's get that in now. Okay, so that's the two main circuit boards wired in and ready. All that's left now is to just hook up the bar graph to the main board here. So the final bit to fit so we can test it, got these two wires here that also come with the kit. We've got our bar graph board, and if we take a look at the back of it, got two connections. This top one, we put a wire in there, and that goes to the one on the main board labelled ground, GND, and this very bottom one goes out and into the one right next to the other sockets. This one here is labelled VSync, we're not using. So let's get those two hooked up. That's all the wires put in, so we can test that it's all working before we do any further work. That's our bar graph connected here by these two wires, and everything's plugged and ready to go. So let's give it a quick power test. It's turned on, so that's a good start. By the way, I had the batteries out while I was doing the wiring. I've put those back in. Second button. Now this is what should turn the bar graph on. If we turn that over, we can see that's working great. We'll just do our final power on so we can test the firing. Great, that's a good sign. Everything is working. There's our bar graph. Use the firing now, just to give it a test to make sure the firing sequence works. And it does, fantastic. Now off camera I also did test to make sure Keep Alive was still working. In other words, the wand not turning itself off, and that works fine as well. So the Keep Alive is all working as intended alongside Bargraph. Great. So as you can probably tell, it's very compact here, and we've got 2 additional boards now that we need to find room for, and we've got to try and tidy all this up before we start installing things back in where they should go. Now on my other wand, which also has the Bargraph installed, it's the previous version which you had to solder, I've got that tucked down in the bottom here, out the way. So I'm going to do the same again. I have had a play off camera to see what sort of wiggle room I've got, and it will just about get under there, I think. Now the first thing I want to do is put this section back in so we can start thinking about mounting the new Bargraph in. Just want to do a test fit as well first of all, in case I have to trim anything else. Right, I've just taken it back out again because I did a little test fit with the bracket and just needs a little bit more off, and this bit is also catching at the top, so I'm going to try and take a little bit off this bottom here. Right, I've put that back in, just trimmed off a little bit as you saw. So I've screwed that back in. I'm just going to leave this board for a minute. I'm not going to put that back in just yet because I want to fit the frame in. Okay, I'm going to slide it in. Now what you'll see, and what I was trying to avoid down here, is it just needs to sit under that bit that's jutting out. So I kind of just need to wiggle it under. I think I've got it where I want it. I'm going to pop a screw in to support it and I can take a look. So I'm not quite happy with the fit. I'm having a bit of a time with this, trying to get it to work how I did before. So I'm going to go to a plan B. Fortunately, there is no easy way of doing this anyway. However, if you do know someone who's come up with a really good way of doing it, do let us know in the comments. But I'm going to go to a plan B. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, but it's going to make my life a little bit easier, I think. I'm going to cut this bit off here, make myself some room, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm also going to take this bit, and I'm going to take off the top just about here, like so. That's gone flying across the table. We'll look for that later, not that I need it. Now, what I'm going to do is kind of what I half plan to do anyway, because the Bargraph itself, once this is in place, I put a bit of hot glue around the edge just to keep it in place because it doesn't stay in there anyway. So all I'm going to do is do that to the bracket as well. I'm just going to pop that in place, dab a bit of hot glue around the edge just to keep that in place. Then I'm going to start putting things back together. I've just dabbed a little bit of hot glue just at the top, just at the bottom of it, and that's nice and secure in there. It's not going anywhere. So before I put the Bargraph in place, I need to refer back to this piece that we took out, which is the vent light delete. If you want it as it is and you're quite happy with it, we can just screw that back in place. If, like me, I want this part taken out so it's opened and hasn't got this bit in, we just need to cut around this part here. There. Got that little bit left. Cut that away from there. So I'm going to screw that back down into that position there so we can put the light back in. Now that that little holder is back in place, I'm going to pop back in that LED that belongs there, which is tucked away here. It's got stuck behind the speaker. There it is, it's that one there. So we're going to pop that back in. As I say, it just pressure fits in. There we go, it's all back in. Zoom in, it's just tucked away down the bottom there. Right, now I've got the bracket in, that's glued in place, and I've placed in the bar graph. I did a test fit off camera to make sure it went in okay. Mine was quite snug. You may have a different experience. These parts are 3D printed, so they're not always exactly the same from person to person. It felt like it wouldn't go in at first, but with a little bit of manipulation it did go in. And just in case you didn't take a note when we did a little test earlier to see if the bar graph was working, the way to remember it for its positioning is the two pin sockets need to be at the top on the right hand side if you were to look down at the wand here, but at the top facing the board. That means we've got the correct orientation. The lights will be going up and down in the right direction. So at this point, I think I just wanted to point out that I've done this a couple of times before on my other ones, and I've watched other people fit these, and there really isn't, as far as I can tell, a 100% perfect way of doing it. Even with the provided brackets from Frutto, it can be a bit of a pig to get in sometimes. I would advise just do what feels right. As long as you can get the main frame in, if you need to sand it a little bit, tweak it a little bit, cut it a little bit, glue it in place, it's absolutely fine. It doesn't really matter too much what it looks like inside. It's what it looks like on the outside that counts. So as long as you're happy with it and you take your time, my advice would just be to work with what's best. I had different results when I did this previously. I was able to fit the entire bracket, but I've also seen other people do different things. So do feel free to sort of do what you think is best and what feels right for you. Now I've put a bit of extra hot glue just around the outside of the bar graph just to hold that in place in the bracket. Don't worry if you get a little bit on the circuit board, it won't do it any harm. The next step really from here is to do a bit of tidying up and cable management. I'm going to be putting my board for the bar graph down deep in the bottom of the wand and out the way. Really I want to get as much of this wiring hidden and out of the way. You'll see why when we come to put everything back together. Before I get into trying to sort this crazy mess of wires out, I'm going to put some of this back together. So I'm going to do this section here, so that's all out my way. And once you've got that back in and ready to screw in, you can just put the screws back in that we took out, or you could take this opportunity to replace those horrible silver ones with some nice little hex bolts. I think these are M3. Choose the correct length, a similar length to the original screws. They will go straight in. To screw those in, they just look much better than the silver screws. There we go. I think that looks much better. Now we've got these two really long wires, and there's also one that belongs to the keep alive. I'm going to zip tie these together so they're not flailing all over the place, and I'm going to then tuck those away too. So far so good, just about, depending how you look at it. But they're all tucked down and mostly out of the way for the time being. But what we need to do is create some kind of cover for at least this portion across here to keep these wires out of the way and not exposed. Reason being, as I mentioned at the start, is the mechanism of the barrel as it goes in and out. We do run the risk of wires getting caught up in it, or even you could use the bit that we cut out earlier and you might have some success hot gluing that or super gluing it in place. But depending how you've cut that might be an option. It might not be an option. Now when I did this previously, I just had a custom piece of plastic that I cut to size, and I kind of coaxed it underneath that gap and underneath that gap and just allowed it to pressure fit underneath. It stays in place, but most importantly it was doing the job, which was keeping the wires out of the way of the barrel, so harmless. And I believe there are some custom pieces you can order that are 3D printed, that are made that you can screw them in and they stay in place as well. I don't recall where I've seen those. If I do find out before I've edited this video, I will put up a link in the description. Now, before I put my custom bit of plastic back in, I need to put the speaker back into position. So let's do that now, because that's also got some wires exposed that we need to cover. Now, here's the bit I've cut ready to go in. That's going to be able to slide under that bit and then under that bit, and it'll sit quite snugly there. I've just pulled this back out quickly just to make sure I've got a bit of room to do that, really. But also when you're measuring and cutting this to size, do take into account the back end of that speaker. So that's in place. Just zoom in a little bit. Not the prettiest thing to look at, but it's there to do an important job and it'll do it just fine. So let's put our barrel back on next. Let's just turn this around. Now it will probably have spun like mine, so we do need to get it positioned just right. Turn it around so that the barrel wire is coming out the top side there, as is this one. And if we have a look through that gap, you can see there's a groove. We need to line those up with a hole. And once we have, we should be able to put that back on those two struts there through those two holes. You might need to just pull it forward a little bit just to manipulate it. As you are going in, once you've got the holes on, also this needs to slot into a groove there. You should feel it naturally fit in. If it's sticking, you just have to give it a wiggle. You need this edge here, the groove. If you look down this bit here, you'll see there's a little two slots there that it needs to go in between. Let's pop our first screw back in, just there. Keep that in place. And then we can stick our spring back in. The slightly larger hoop goes on this side here and goes in with one screw. There isn't a screw on this bit. That's like that. That's because there's a screw on the outer case that goes into there when we put it back together. That's the barrel back on. Just check it all works fine. It does. More importantly, you can see as that's going back and forth, there are no chances of it catching on any of those wires. They're all out of harm's way. Next, we're going to pop our catch back on that holds the barrel in place when it's retracted. So that goes on just like this, with the beveled top there and a little catch at the bottom. First screw we're going to put in is this central one that keeps that in place, like so. And we'll pop our spring on. And we'll put the two screws on the top to keep that in place. So that's in place now, and that's just about all of it put back together. These two wires here that did have some tape over them, if you saw in the previous video, I'm going to put some hot glue over the top just to keep those in place a little bit. So let's put the back on, or bottom, depending how you want to look at it. That just slides back onto the top. All 5 of the screws back in. One here that holds the barrel in place. 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now all that's left to do is pop the rail on. That goes on just here. Now I mentioned in my previous video that, again, these screws here, the 4 silver ones, we can change those and put some black M3 hex bolts in. If it looks a lot smarter and it sort of reflects how it should be. These fake ones here, they do fit in, so we're going to do that, I think, if I've got some. Okay, that's all 4 little hex bolts in. Went a bit deep in that one, I'll correct that later. Now let's put the V-hook back on, and that's everything put back together. Now let's put the batteries back in and give it a test. Make sure we haven't broken anything doing all that. Okay, moment of truth. Let's go with switch number 1. Well, that's a start. There's our bar graph working wonderfully. You can also change the height of it with our top knob. Now let's fire her up. And there's our lovely vent light shining out the top. Check a fire. Wonderful. And all being well, the keep alive is still working, but I did test that earlier, so I think we're all good. So we're all done here. Thanks again for watching. I hope you found that useful, even when I made a few mistakes here and there. There'll be some more videos coming soon, including some tours of my own pack, some of the mods I've already done, and plenty more to come in the future. Thank you.